Hello, Papercut here, doing another video review. We have Zfjord. I'm guessing it's more of the Nordic style. Zfjord, who has just completed their placement matches. Congratulations to them, doing their first ranked season here, and they play silver. They want me to look at one of their games, see how they're doing, get any first adjustments. They're playing Abbasid, which is a great civilization right now. As always, we want to start off by looking at the game, seeing what they did well, what they could do better, and giving some 2 to 3 big things to work on from here. If you're ever interested in doing your own replay review, please reach out, as well as I do coaching, hour-long coaching sessions, where I look at 4 or 5 year games, break it down, and break it down with you over a Discord call. So if you're interested in that, let me know. So we're gonna get started here and see how they do. So obviously they've watched some sort of build order guide, because the opening is fairly clean. 6 on food, going into a house and into mining camp. It's 7 on food. It's initial scouting. I would have tried to peek down a little bit and get the corner and then come up. Go about halfway and then come back, but you're timing it pretty well. You're aiming back just when you need more sheep. I mean, the nice thing though is that since you're Abbasid, if you had to go on berries, it would have been fine, but you get back. What I would suggest here actually is you put 8 on food, because you're not going to hit castle. I mean, you're not going to hit your age up at the correct time. It'd been better to have your 8th villager come out, build either have one of your mining camp villagers build the House of Wisdom, go back to gold, or have this villager build the House of Wisdom, go to food, so you have more of an equal age up time. Also, what you should do is, if the 8 p.m. is a little fast, it's always important to get your scout back on the map as soon as possible. So what you could have done is just drop your sheep off, and if you're busy, click on your scout and just click on the mini map and send your scout out, so your scout just goes out and keeps going even if you're not paying attention. Before we go in, let's think about your civ versus who you're playing against. You're Abbasid, you're playing against English on Hideout. Hideout is a huge map, and so I think actually considering the map here is important, considering what you're going to do. I often see 2 styles come out on Hideout, just because it's such a big map. You generally have people do 2 things. They either, one, heavy boom, because it's fairly defensible. You have a lot of wood, so you can really set up in your wood line, get a lot of wood, put up farms. And Hideout's interesting because while you do get a lot of, a good starting resource block, everything else is so far out on the map. So you kind of have 2 options. You either really turtle, and you try to maybe set up walls on either side, and then you try to just boom, boom, boom. Or people will fast castle and just try to beat someone by going fast castle, or even kind of fast imperial, and then use superior units to win the game. That's what I've seen the most. Some people will all out you, but all out is very dangerous in this map because it's so far away. Your units have to travel pretty far. It can work, but you have to really commit to it and really make sure your economy is good. So I'm going to see we're going to see what you're trying to do, but it's important that you're scouting your opponent to see what are they doing. Are they going straight castle? Are they booming? What are they trying to do? As English is a very versatile civ, so they're going to try a whole variety of things potentially. But see, this you're missing scouting time, and you're missing the ability to get more sheep because you focus so much on this. Okay, so your second TC macro. So here's what I mean by say having 8 on food. You're going to sit here and be waiting to age up because you didn't have 8 on food. Age up the military wing. That's military wing on here. Here's why I think it's a pretty good option. This helps you if English tries to do a little quick longbow rush to slow you down. Or you can be aggressive and defend your second TC with it. So I'm all for it. I think the military opening is great, especially on lower levels, because just putting a little bit of pressure on your opponent can really throw them off. I would have had your scout go the opposite way, just in case they missed any deer. Or sheep, I mean. So this is huge. I want to talk about what information we get from scouting and how do we use it. So you come out here and you see that they haven't finished their age up, but they already have 5 on gold. Most English players are not sitting with 5 on gold. They're doing 3 on gold, because English does have some gold units. They have men-at-arms, but most people aren't usually rushing men-at-arms. And if you start seeing more than 3 on gold, that's an indication that there's a chance they're going castle. That he's just going what we call naked castle, which is where you make no units, you just rush it. would have been helpful if you had peeked in a little bit and seen, does he have a lot on wood? And you can actually run your scout kind of on the edges here if you're careful. I know it's kind of dangerous. Like, for example, this TC could have hit, but if you could have peeked in, like, right on the edge here, if he has a lot on wood, then he's fighting in feudal. If he has only a few on wood and a lot on food, then he's rushing castle. Just seeing those splits is helpful. So getting a peek at where are their villagers tells you what their goal is, which allows you to respond. You can still maintain your game plan, but you need to adjust your game plan depending on what you see. So you could probably duck in right here and just take a peek. When you're doing second TC, here's what I want you to notice. You drop a barracks immediately, but are you going to use this barracks? Probably not. And even then, I would argue that a barracks against English is generally going to get it. English is going to go longbows, so your best bet is archers and horsemen. And if you're going second TC, I'd suggest you do what we call all-out second TC, like completely commit. You should be doing nothing else but splitting villagers to get a second TC. You should only have 4 villagers on food, because 4 villagers will give you enough to get a villager regularly. Always be making villagers, right? Always be making villagers. Then you should split your villagers equally between wood and stone. I would have actually suggested that you, at this point, you should have split your villagers from the start onto stone. So you should take the 3 villagers off of food and put them on stone to have 5, and then keep sending villagers to stone until you have enough for your second TC. And from the start, you should have split them evenly. So there should hypothetically be like 7 and 7, because as you notice, you're getting way too much wood, and you don't have the stone to back that up. You want your TC up as soon as possible. And the strength of Abbasid is that since you age up without needing to use any villagers, you can get that second TC up much faster than most other civilizations. So I like your plan here. I assume you're going to send them out and you're going to go to their gold, which is well and good. Go do that. Drop off your sheep. If you want a little bit of food bonus, I would actually go ahead and get the berries early. Reason being is, if for some reason he does come in with longbows or something like that, you want your sheep back at your TC for safety. You have the deer right here for safety as well. Move your villagers out and get the more dangerous resource, quote unquote dangerous resource, while you can. So then you can go to your safer resource just in case. It's why you'll often see higher level players, if they have map control, which is when you control, like you are in the enemy's base, you control the map, go for the middle resources first, because they can always fall back to the more safer resources later in the game. And let's notice your macro setup. You already have enough wood for a second TC, but don't have the stone. If you had split your villagers more equally, you could be dropping your second TC pretty quickly, which is much better for you because now you're pumping out villagers faster than your opponent. So your scout needs to be back at the base already so you can see what are they doing. That's why it's important to send your scout out. You need to know, is he actually rushing castle? What's he doing? I'm trying to think if there's a better way to put this. When you're trying to get better at macro at sending your economy, always ask what is your goal and set up your villagers for that goal. If your goal is second TC, split your villagers. If your goal is to fight in feudal, put your villagers on wood and food so you can get up production, you can get more units. The way to tell if you're doing okay is regularly check. I'd say like have like an internal timer where like every 20-30 seconds you're going, okay, what's my eco like? Oh, I have a lot of wood, but not enough of this resource. I need to rally my villagers to that resource. It makes you constantly doing that. Also, you always need to be making villagers. So make sure you have your TC on a hotkey. I keep my TC on the side of my mouse. I have like an extra mouse key on the side of my mouse. So I'm constantly checking my TC and able to make sure I'm always making villagers. So you know, scout, that's fine. You want to go see this gold. You need to get your scout up there as well. I think I just said that. Not quite there on the second TC, but you sure have your second TC up by now. Okay, so you notice he saw you coming, so he tried to build an outpost, and then you back up. What you should actually do is just attack this outpost. It's so low that if you actually attack it, you could destroy it and he loses his resources for it. Instead, you back up and let him finish it, which is, no. Sit here. This is his only gold, keep in mind. He'd have to go out here for another gold. So attack it. Also, buildings are weaker in their build stage. So you could actually probably destroy this. Instead, you back up all the way up here and let him finish it. You just took some space. Use that space. Okay, let's see second TC placement here. You put it here, which I'm actually okay with. he's in his base, take the space. You're protecting 2 food sources here. My small adjustment would be put the second TC here. Why? Your TC is like a big outpost. If you place it here, he could actually shoot your villagers off berries with longbows. If you put it here, this protects it more so, and he'd have to walk his units all the way around to attack the berries, and it just gives you a lot more space. It also protects them if they go on wood here. So place your TC in a more defense pro position, like right here. Okay, you drop a battering ram, which I think is a waste of wood at this point. The reason it's a waste of wood is because you only have 4 units to attack. Realistically, he has enough villagers, especially as English's villagers can shoot you with bows. So if you want, he could just mass bring his villagers up, kill your units, and then destroy the ram. If you're gonna do a ram push, you need enough units to actually defend the ram and do damage. This is basically kind of a waste of 250 wood. He also just hit feudal, and this is something that should be concerning to you. If he's hitting feudal this late, that's probably because he probably had like 1 villager aging up. If you have like 1 villager aging up, why is he doing that? Well, that's probably because he's trying to gather resources as fast as possible. He doesn't really care about being feudal because he's gathering so slowly. That's a tip to you that he's most likely going castle. So now I want you to see our macro goal. Like what are we collecting based on our goal? You still have 15 on wood, 6 on food, and all these are going to go to food. That'll be 10, and then 2 on gold. This tells me that you want to fight in feudal. Do you? If you wanted to fight in feudal, you should have already been dropping your production buildings with all this extra wood. You don't need to get farms yet, because you still have plenty of food. You still have these berries, you still have these berries. So if you want to fight in feudal, you should be dropping production and rallying to food, because you have plenty of wood right now. You need more food to produce more units. And you probably want to get a few more on gold to get upgrades, because right now you don't have any economic upgrades at all. So you walk in with the ram. I want you to see how much damage you're doing with this ram. 1, he's keeping a lot on gold, and then you see his King's Palace. And I think it was smart that you tried picking a villager, which is exactly what you should have done. But this should send off a warning sign to you that he is trying to get, most likely when you go castle this fast, the goal is to just get knights out and harass you. So what do you do in response? You're actually in a great position. He's basically dropping a second TC, so you guys are going to match each other in vills. Your goal should be right now is to get up to castle quickly yourself, and then you'll be a-okay. When you need to change course that quickly, your best bet is to actually move villagers. You should have tried to avoid moving villagers as much as possible. It's a waste of eco. But in this case, you have plenty of wood, so you can make the production. In fact, you can already take a village and start making the production you want to make. Knowing he's going knights, you should probably want to drop a stable and just get camel riders. And you could do mass cavalry. You could do camel riders and horsemen. Horsemen to get the archers, camel riders to kill his knights. Because you know he's probably going to go archers. Or you could do a archer camel rider, or crossbow archer camel rider. But camel riders are very, very good. So you can start dropping that production, but you should move a clutch of villagers off the wood onto food and get castle ASAP. Which you can. You have plenty of food here, you have plenty of food here. What you should do is you probably won't be able to get a wall up here quickly. Your goal should be to try to protect this food right here. So you should wall here to here and get out a few spearmen to protect yourself if he rushes with cavalry. But he put all his resources into this castle, so yeah, you actually have a little bit of time. Let's see what you do. So you're building lots of villagers. Oh, one thing you missed that's really important is Abbasid, is you get fresh foodstuffs. This is really important. This is what makes your 2TC better than anyone else's 2TC. You need to reduce the cost of villagers. You'll save so much food on that. You needed to grab this as soon as possible. Even if you stayed at 1TC, you need to get fresh foodstuffs. So you're losing a lot of extra resources basically from not doing that. Small thing that helps, as you start making space on food here, on wood here, build more lumber camps so your villagers don't have to walk very far. And lastly, if you wanted to fight field, you could have, but you would have needed to drop production buildings and get units there immediately. And then a push could have worked. He had no units. A naked castle is really hard. If you had just a few more units here, you could have kept him off the gold, and then this second TC doesn't really do much. But you don't have units, so you need to commit to going to castle quickly yourself. But what I notice is you don't. You keep all these villagers on wood, and in fact, you're rallying more to wood. What is this doing for you? Like, what is more wood going to do for you right now? You already have 1,000. How's it going to help you? That's kind of the question. So you need to pull these off wood. You need to pull and put them on food. And you need to put them on gold, because you need food and gold immediately to get to castle. This is a nice wall right here. Once again, do a close wall here. You don't want to be overly aggressive, especially because if you need the food here, you have to make sure it doesn't get pressured. Okay, you go. See, trying to go all the way out here on this wall was a little aggressive, and you needed to drop this wall the second he hit castle. Like, you were on a timer right there. You had to immediately go and build these walls. Guys in the raid, you just go and get these deer right here, and you'll be fine. This tower's too far back. Yeah, so just get a few more spearmen out. If you have 3 or 4 spearmen, he can't push through that. Put the tower up here, right here, so it actually protects the front of it. Putting it right here doesn't really do much. You can still hit your villagers. Put all these villagers on food right here. Save food right now, because he's just raiding you. And build up a mass of spearmen first. If you never build up a mass, he's just going to keep killing the individuals. So at this point, you have 2 goals. You need to get the castle, and then you need to build up a mass of units based on what he has. So you lost your scout. You need to get a stable out and get another scout out and try to see what's the comp he's building. Right now, he seems to be just massing knights, so just mass spearmen. Get down archery ranges so that when you hit castle, you can start making crossbows. Get down stables so you can get camel riders. Respond to what your opponent is making. Respond to the information. Good defense. Don't chase, don't chase. Don't chase, leave him here. Just keep building a mass. If you chase, then he's going to kill him. See? But this is taking a long time to get to castle, and that's because you never committed to getting castle. You needed to move units onto gold, because you actually have the food, and you have the wood, and you don't need the wood, but you have the food, but instead you go for a 3rd TC, which is fine. Go for it. You as Abbasid, you always want more TCs than your opponent. But you should have pulled villagers onto gold and immediately gotten that 600 gold and kept them there, because you're going to make gold units, right? And also know you have to do this quickly, because you're going to burn through food. Look, you're almost done with this berry patch. And so I get getting food for farms, which is all well and good, but if you don't get the castle, it won't do you anything. You see he's just rotating. He's going to start trying to poke your different resources. It takes you off gold, and your castle's still delayed. One thing to do, if you ever notice, and also just see how far they're walking. That's such a waste of time, and actually you'll get so many more resources to get rid of that. But I'm glad you got wheelbarrow. That's really important. What you could have done for an emergency castle is built a market and just sold some of this extra wood to gold, and just immediately aged up. That could have helped you, especially because he's harassing your gold. But you needed to get castle. I can't emphasize this enough. Okay, you try to build this safe wall here. You back him up. That's it. Don't chase. Don't chase. Keep it here. Just guard the wall. You're still not going castle, and this is killing you, because right now he's just booming up a much better army than you, while you're sitting here making spears. And you have to be a little bit more predictive here. Okay, he runs all the way around, and checks the other side, which you walled, but he quickly destroys it because he has so many knights. And you have to predict that if he sees you only making spears, he is going to make longbows. So you have to counter-predict his comp. Because if all you run at him is with spears right here, he's just going to kill you with longbows. I would just keep the spearman mass here in case he tries to do a raid on the other side, honestly. But here's the thing, you're putting up outposts and static defenses, which is all well and good. A couple of spring upgrades is nice, but it's always better to just build units. And right now you're building a lot of spearmen. You need more. You need to diversify at this point. Because you have, if you see this, you have enough spearmen. Your 22 spearmen would beat his 11 knights, especially when you upgrade them. Get the flanks upgrade. That makes your spearmen super good. You need to now diversify your unit comp, because you already see this longbows here. he's responding to your unit comp, you gotta respond to his. And this would have been easier if you had already been castle. You also need to get down to barracks and get military upgrades. This town center is actually pretty nice to defend this gold, but it won't matter if he can just run free through your base. Good catch. You notice at this point he's just idling ready to go. He's building up his longbow force here. So you hit castle, and now the thing you gotta do is you gotta get a mango out. And so what's nice about Abbasid is that you can make siege immediately. I think you're gonna make one, but look at the resource separators. One, you've been having villagers killed, and you're not making villagers currently. So you have 61 villagers, and he has 78. So that's not all just from him killing your villagers. We can see how many. He's killed 20. Ooh, actually, yeah. So yeah, that actually explains your villager deficit. But I see you not making villagers now. Always be making villagers. But yeah, you've put yourself in a pretty deep hole here, and the only thing that would really protect you is if you're able to put up a keep, or because you're almost out of food. Like, you would need to sit all your military here and use this as a defensive point and mass up, but you're out of food. And he's chilling on farms, and he's just going to keep pumping units towards your base. And this is where it's kind of the beginning and the end, because he has too many longbows for your spears, and then you can't mass up. Cool. Not a bad game, though. Not a bad game. And you make a few tweaks, and you're still right in that game. Make sure you get villagers back out of the TC as soon as possible. You can click C to do that. So let's actually talk about what to get from that game. Your opponent going fast castle is not something that will kill you. You just have to respond to what has happened. The way you responded was too slow. So let's talk about kind of the 2 to 3 big things you should be doing. One, your economy is the most important thing. Abbasid's great because it can set up an economy pretty quickly and fairly safely, and then boom off of that, and then in the late game it's a monster. So what you have to do is make sure what is your goal, and you're moving your villagers based on that goal. So if your goal is to get a second TC, split your villagers to wood and stone equally and get that second TC quickly. Is your goal to find feudal, get enough wood to make buildings, get food to send units to your opponent's base and try to fight it out. You'll be surprised how much aggression will win you games at the lower levels because people just aren't ready for it. Your opponent went naked castle. He didn't have any units. So if you had sent a few more units, you could have stopped his age up and completely killed what he was trying to do. And then lastly, respond to what your opponent is doing. So one is that macro is the economy based on your goal, how many villagers. 2, use your civ's advantages. Know your civ's advantages. So 1, for example, when you age up, you don't need villagers. Move your villagers then to successfully get to your goal faster. 2, you use those upgrades. So for example, the villager, reducing the cost of villagers, use that to your advantage. That's huge and would give you the resources then to do more things than your opponent. Lastly, number 3, respond to what your opponent is doing. You have a goal and you have a play you're trying to make, but you have to respond to what your opponent's doing to that play. So your opponent went fast castle, you don't have the units to punish him for that, you go castle yourself. Immediately move villagers off non-vital resources, wood, to vital resources, gold and food, to get castle as soon as possible. Set up some walls, put up production, and then respond to what he's making. He makes knights, you make spears, and camel riders. Once again, special to your civ. But also be predictive. Your opponent is not dumb. If they make knights and you respond with spears, he will make longbows. You make horsemen or mangonels or whatever. But something that responds to that. And if you do those things, you will do better. That you lost the game because you just didn't respond fast enough. You actually were somewhat aggressive. You understood what he was doing. You caught what he was doing. You weren't surprised he went castle. You just didn't respond quickly enough to it, which then allowed him to raid you, which then allowed him to build up a force while you fell behind. If you looked at your ending resources, you had so many resources, just not in the resources. You had like 4,000 wood. Imagine that wood was split between gold and food. You could produce an army just as big as his. But yeah, I hope those things help you. And keep in mind, you're gonna have to play a lot at the beginning. You're gonna lose a lot at the start, but you will get better the more you play. And if you keep looking back at your games and asking yourself, where did it go wrong? Like, what thing was I surprised about? What did I try and it did not work? Did I have too many resources? When did that start? Things like that. Find where you made the mistakes. And as you fix those, you will get better over time. It's part of the game. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or have any feedback. Good luck on your next games.